Hi everyone. Uh, Hope you're doing well. It's a big day. So thank you so much for joining. I'm happy to be here today. Uh, Now, basically, what I want to talk about today is mostly component composition, and I'm actually going to try and simulate, let's say, a real-world example of how we shape our components during the product development cycle. I hope this makes sense. So yeah, this is basically me. Uh, you can call me Theo. You can find me on Twitter as well, and I'm a lead front-end engineer with the Kariera team. So let me get started. So what is this presentation about? Now, this presentation is about handling incremental changes in React components, and actually I love this part, or how to be proactive. And when I say proactive, this is kind of tricky. I believe in our job we should always try and be proactive in a way, but in the right amount, if that makes sense. Meaning that we don't want to over-engineer things or end up implementing stuff that we're not going to need. So it always depends on your specific use cases. Secondly, we're going to explore component composition. Uh, what are some ways to compose components and what are the benefits of doing so? And lastly, we're going to get some high-level overview of some of the patterns that we can use in React, yeah? So I'm not going to go into a lot of details. If you have any questions, we can discuss it later. So let me get started with a simple example. So let's say you work at an HR tech company and you're a front-end engineer, and the product team comes to you and they say, we are creating this tutorial feature for our app, and we need a stepper component. And the component should have the following attributes, let's say this and this and this. So you get the designs and you start creating the component, and you have it in no time ready. Yeah. So this works fine. uh, the API is pretty simple, it's reusable, so you're pretty happy about it. So you ship it, and a few weeks pass by, and the product team comes back and they say to you, you know what, we have gotten some feedback from our users, and they feel stuck in there. They don't like the flow. It takes too much time, so we need to help them navigate the step more quickly. Is there a way to do this? So you say, yeah, for sure, we can just add a click handler on each step and navigate there as you click on it, if that makes sense. So let's see how this looks. So yeah, this looks something like that. So now the users can go to the last step, and they can hit the call to action, and they're there. They don't lose any time. So okay, you think you're done with the component by now, but then maybe a fellow developer comes back to you and they say, I'm trying to implement this feature, and I have this exact step in my designs, but I actually need to use forms in there. So I need a way to kind of enable and disable the next button, and I also need to get rid of the click navigation. How can we do this? And you think about it, and you say, uh, maybe we'll add some more props. Maybe we make the navigation optional, and we disable the next button on demand. So this works something like, you can go ahead and do, and it enables the button when you're finished, when the form is valid, let's say. So yeah, this looks like something like that. So now you have a form in there, and the next button is disabled, and you can also disable and enable navigation. You're still pretty happy. You can reuse this. There are different use cases where you're using this component. You're still pretty happy about it anyway. So then the product team comes back again, because they always come back after all. And they say, we need to enhance the stepper with some labels because we need to give our users some insight of what is going on, what are they dealing with. So let's see how this looks. You think about it and you say, I don't have to change the component API again. I don't have to add any more props. I can include some labels inside the steps, and maybe I will add some conditional rendering in the component, and this works fine. You don't have to refactor a bunch of code. So you get the labels there, but then they come back again and they say, we have different use cases. We have like we need to move around the labels and stuff. We need to put them on the left of the number or on the top or something. And you say, okay, we can do that. I will add another prop. And, this looks something like that. With a single prop, you can actually, you can actually decide which direction your labels you want to go. They can go. So yeah, you think about it for a moment, and this starts getting ugly, but it's still fine. You still ship quickly, so this is nice. Yeah. But then by now you're probably starting to notice a pattern, right? You have all these changes that they come to you, and you have to change your component. So this goes on, and you get asked to change the icons of the stepper, and you make it a dot now, and then you get asked to maybe have some progress indication. So you have this progress indication around the step. So you end up with something like this. And well, I hope you're all familiar with React, by the way. If you're familiar with React, this doesn't look good. First of all, I mean, except from the fact that it's really ugly and unmaintainable, you're actually shipping code to your users that they're not going to use. So this is really important. And the velocity drops. You have to have documentation about this kind of components, and think about an app scaling. Yeah, you have many of those, so you need to think it through. So I can show you an example of how we can have a stepper component that will that we can use to implement all these cases, but we don't have to use all these steps. So let's see how they're perfect. So this is our stepper. This is the stepper component I was talking about. I'm sorry. So basically what this does is that, should I zoom in? I'm not sure how to do that. Maybe this makes sense. Okay. Is this better? Perfect. Okay. So yeah, this is our stepper component. I talked about the render props pattern, but I'm gonna go through this again. So yeah, the render props pattern is basically when you have a prop in here, you can just like return it with an object in there. Okay, so you can put lots of stuff in there, and we can actually split the logic of the stepper from the UI. So yeah, this is it basically. So but we're using our children prop instead. So our children prop gets this object, and then we can use all those tools in here in our example component. So this is nice, yeah. So what I've been talking about previously is that we have our steps here, and those steps actually are in the same closure as the one we're going to be using them in. So since they're in the same closure, you can do stuff like, you can add some props in there, maybe secondary props or something, secondary label or something, and you can put something in there, or maybe a callback, but you get the idea. So since you can do that in here, you don't need to let the stepper know about this. So this, I think, is really great. And the other thing that I was talking about, I'm sorry, I'm gonna repeat myself because it didn't make sense if you didn't see anything. So yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is these little guys here. So these guys here are basically a really nice pattern that I like, because they take into account what is the actual role, what are the elements of a stepper, and what do they need to do, let's say. So it's not just helper functions and then you let the developer do the work again. So for example, we could do something like on click here and use a simple utility function that moves us to the next step. We could do something like that, but this you end up with something like this. You reached your final step, but the next button is not disabled. You don't have any extra functionality, So you have to go and do something like disabled, and then have some conditions in there as well. So in order for us not to do this, for the developer not to have to do this, you can basically do something like that. And what it does, let's see the implementation actually. What this does is actually it returns an object with things that they need to go as attributes into the button. Okay, so this is really great because you can define lots of stuff here. You can maybe you have a select. You're building a select or something, or a combo box. So you can have accessibility stuff in here, ARIA stuff, or like whatever you like. So I think I love this pattern. This is really great. And the concept behind it, I think, is that if you think about what you're building as a whole, you have a stepper, let's say. Okay, so since you have this stepper, what actually defines a stepper? Yeah, you have some step indicators, I guess, and you probably have some step content, probably you have something like that, and you probably have something like actions, yeah, step actions. So since those are the stuff that a stepper is consisted of, you can think of those stuff and create utility functions like these ones that you can use, and so you deliver the whole functionality of a stepper to your user developer, let's say. So this is great, but another thing I want to point out here is that you can actually enhance this. So you get this props object in here, and you can use it to enhance this functionality. So you have the stepper functionality, and on top of that, you allow the user to be able to do whatever they want. So I find this is great because, and this is a really important. Like I need everyone to take this away from this talk. This is an important thing to consider when building actually composable and reusable stuff. Your ideas, or the implementations that you do of different concepts, they're not going to make sense forever, and we have to be proactive about this. We're not going to make sense forever, because there's new technology on the way every day, so we actually need to build on top of what we are offered at the moment and expose native functionality as well. So by doing this pattern here, the developer can go and do something like, disabled true, and then you actually have this disabled the button. So it's not taking any functionality away. It's not creating a black box. It's not like you're not creating a component that's unusable for many use cases. Okay, so this is really important. Uh, so I think this is really nice. So how can we actually use the components? I think we should go and check out how many of these scenarios that I showed you earlier can work out with this approach. Yeah. So I'm gonna use this base stepper. So this base stepper is actually the same as a simple version, but I'm using some style components. These are all style components. They're usable. They're basically HTML elements with some styles. So you have no functionality in there. So yeah, how does this work anyway? Let's see how would the scenario with the click handler would work here. Yeah, so we can go ahead and do something like on click probably, and on click you want to go to the step and you put the index in there, and this works fine. So I just added like a simple on click handler, and this scenario is covered. Yeah. Again, this can be your base component, and you can build even more stuff on top of this one. So keep that in mind, yeah. Because I'm trying to kind of talk about composition here. So this is important. These are all different elements that you can combine and create different versions of what you want to achieve anyway. So the other scenario was the one with the labels, yeah. So we have those labels. We need those labels in there, so we can do something like create a simple container, and we can do something like, so you have labels in there now. So this is one line of code, by the way. Well, there's some CSS as well, but yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, it's probably something like this. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so this looks good. Now we actually wanted to kind of change the placement of the label, yeah? So let's see how this works. Can do something like that. This is tricky. We have to add another container now, but it's not that hard after all. So and with some CSS magic, we can do something like placement, and you can go maybe left. And again, you can reuse all these, and this is actually we're just messing around with Flexbox here. So this is no like actual functionality. This is just we're just rendering styles. So yeah, that looks good as well. We had this other scenario with the different icons. Let's see this one. Well, this works good, and you actually need an active step in there. Pretty good. You can even go ahead and add more functionality, or you can even go ahead and maybe tweak what happens on click, and you can put an alert in there and say something like, oops, yeah, this works. So you get the user action, and then you get the actual action of the stepper. Now you can go to the next step and do something else as well. So I think all this is great. I need to say to everyone that you don't always need to do this. For example, if you know that that something that you're creating is going to only be used once, you don't need to do all this. But I really think that, if for example, you're in a company and you have different products, different use cases, you have a UI system, or you like, or you just want to kind of be creative or something and you have the time, then I think it makes more sense. This is infinitely scalable, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's about it. We also had some scenarios with forms as well, yeah. So let's see how this works. Let me remove all this and maybe put something more fun in there. That looks nice. I'll just remove all these. Oops. Just give it a second. Okay, so how would the whole thing with the forms? Now this seems a little bit trickier. How can we achieve this? Yeah. Now, first of all, if we have some forms, we need to be able to enable and disable next button. So we can allow the developer to kind of, or actually the developer takes the responsibility for all this. Or again, you can reuse the whole thing. Maybe we can create a step is next enabled or something. State variable that is next enabled, and we can do something like, let's start with false. Yeah. So we can go ahead and add it here. And we start with a disabled state. And then we actually need to render our forms, yeah? And maybe tweak this one as we go. So I have prepped some steps for us for this tutorial. So these are basically just some components, some form components, yeah? So, there are many approaches that we can use here. We could do something like maybe, we could do something like current step equals 0, and then you have everything like in a glance. I don't hate this approach, honestly. Many people love iterating stuff, but I don't hate it. I think it's pretty cool. So you could do something like email form accepts a prop. I think it's called unvalid change. Yeah, that's right. And you could go ahead and do something like, and you can pass on whatever this guy gives us. So let's see how this works. So you have a form in there now, and you can maybe add your email, and this works. Not that hard again, yeah, because you have the freedom to do so. So yeah, another way I should mention probably is that if you have many forms in there and you don't have to, and you don't like this UI, you can maybe use something like a higher order component. So this is another pattern actually. So how this works is basically, this is a function that takes a component as a prop, and it returns this component with some added props. So you can actually pass whatever you want in here, or maybe you have some logic and you have some extra state in there, or maybe you fetch some data and you pass it on to your children or something. Yeah. So yeah, that's really important. Basically, I don't love this pattern because it takes some things for granted, but lots of people use it, so I thought it could be a good addition. When I say take some things for granted, it means that this component, the child component, has some contract with a higher order component, because you basically say that you should be able to accept those props that I pass you. So there is a contract in there, let's say. But there are many use cases, authentication page, authenticated pages, stuff like that. Is good. So we could go ahead and do something like that, and maybe add some. Now we're just iterating our steps, and we are returning, our components. Our steps basically. Let me show you the steps. Are basically objects. So they have a label in there. We don't even use this one for this use case, and they have some content. It could be whatever you want to be. So yeah, each step has a form, let's say, as a content. So we get this content, these components, and we return them as steps. But now there's steps with validation. So you could go ahead and do something like, map. And then maybe say that, if our current step is equal to index, go ahead. Something wrong there. It's equal to our index. I'm going to return actually this form component. And now I'm gonna add this one here. Just give me a second. I have a working example. I'm not going to debug live, yeah. But I think this is basically it. Still doesn't work. What is it? Cannot assign a read-only property. If somebody can find the bug, this is a nice exercise, guys. Maybe we don't need this one. We have something like, is this a problem? It's not easy to debug in code sandbox, I guess. Should have thought of this. Oh, display. Okay. So let's go again. Oh, I need to return it, eh? Okay. So we can do something like valid change. And maybe use this thing. So now, yeah, I'm recapping because I messed up. So now we actually have these steps with a validation that accept a validation method. So we can go ahead and we're iterating through our steps. So we can go ahead and do something like, and it works. You see the next button enabled when the form is properly filled. Yeah. So yeah, I think I don't know how much. Oh, it's already 9 o'clock. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I just had another example that I wanted to show you guys with a compound component, but you can go ahead and maybe search it. Yeah, it's a really interesting pattern as well. So yeah, basically that's about it. Let me change my screens again. So yeah, that's it. I just want to thank all of you for participating, guys, and And special thanks to Kariera, to the Kariera team, because they let me do the stuff I want to do. So I hope you find this presentation helpful. I'm going to share it with you. You can find the code as well in the code sandbox. I used Reveal.js for this and some style components. And I wanted to mention this guy because there's lots of stuff that he's done for the community. And I find that he's been an influence for me. So yeah, I really hope you understood. I was a bit anxious about this presentation. I've never done this before, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to share or whatever. You can by the way contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn. If any questions come up. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining, and have a good night.